by one, Albuquerque police officers have been turning in their badges rather than talk to investigators about an alleged public corruption scheme involving DWI cases.
There is an ongoing investigation into an adult pool party hosted and attended by LMPD officers, along with several ongoing sexual misconduct lawsuits against the department. The Department of Justice found LMPD does not properly investigate internal sexual misconduct complaints, and at the same time, LMPD is currently in negotiations with the DOJ to agree on terms of a consent decree to reform the department.
News on a local prosecutor facing serious charges. We're talking bribery, intimidation, and tampering with evidence. His chief of staff is facing charges as well. Both men in a courtroom minutes ago.
Price and her 17-month-old son were inside a home on Parmalee Avenue back in January when Illyria's special response team raided it as part of an investigation.
They used flashbangs before entering, which the lawsuit claims sent the baby to the ICU.
Tonight, 3 former Memphis police officers getting a mixed verdict for the fatal beating of TYRE Nichols. All 3 were found guilty but acquitted on the most serious charges against them. Nichols was beaten after running from officers in January of 2023 during a traffic stop. He died 3 days later. 5 former officers were charged and 2 took plea deals and testified during the trial. One officer, Demetrius Haley, was deemed guilty on 2 lesser counts, including excessive force. The other 2 officers on trial were found guilty, each on 1 count of witness tampering, which carry possible sentences of up to 20 years in prison. All 3 were taken into custody after the verdicts, and a trial date has not been set in state court, where all 5 officers involved are charged with second-degree murder.
New details are emerging about who was involved in a multi-state fentanyl drug trafficking ring reportedly led by a Renton family. Throughout the day, King 5 has reported on the indictment of 14 people in total. One of the people named in the charging documents is Marty Jackson. She is a well-known advocate in South Seattle. King 5 has spoken to her at community healing events organized by Southeast Network following crimes in that part of the city. Now court documents outline her alleged involvement in the drug ring. Federal investigators say that she laundered money for her sons and stepson who were involved in the sale of fentanyl pills. In all, investigators say this group distributed more than 800,000 fentanyl pills throughout the U.S. Some of those pills investigators linked to a fatal fentanyl overdose on the Lummi Nation in Whatcom County. As King 5 previously reported, back in September 2023, the Lummi Nation declared a state of emergency because of the number of overdoses.
There's not a community I visit that does not talk about the devastation that fentanyl has done to their communities. This poison has harmed their children, their families, their communities, and nowhere is that more felt than our Native communities. The disproportionate effect of fentanyl overdose deaths and fentanyl on our Native communities is really horrifying.
A really, really dumb decision led to a series of other poor decisions.
A strong statement from Chesterfield Police Deputy Chief Brad Badger wrote after a former probationary officer was charged for filing a false police report. According to authorities, the former probationary officer hit a parked car with her personal vehicle near Mallard Cove on September 22nd. The next day, the officer left a note for the driver and filed a false police report on their behalf, saying it was a hit and run. Badgerow says simple steps could have prevented this from happening.
If at the very beginning she just would have made the easy choice of just saying, hey, I hit a car, sorry, but that didn't happen.
Authorities said they eventually caught on to her false claim after a detective did a follow-up on her investigation. The probationary officer was suspended September 24th and ultimately fired on October 1st. Badgerow says he's proud of his team for bringing this to light and hopes there's a valuable lesson for all potential officers who want to be a part of the force.
We hire about 3% of the people that apply to us. People earn their right to be in the Chesterfield County Police Academy. And the academy is no joke. We want to be able to tell people that when you see a CCPD officer rolling around, you know that we're going to do the right thing for the right reason.
Good morning and welcome to the Bad Apple Report. It's 7:30 a.m. bright and early right here at home on the range. Thank you so much for being here today, folks. I really appreciate it. We're going to start our day out in Raleigh, North Carolina. Uh-oh, my Porky's over there. He's making noise. I hope he goes to sleep. I think he will. Go to sleep, little buddy. Okay, Raleigh, North Carolina. A deputy who was sworn to protect is now charged with a felony and 3 misdemeanors in Wake County. Malik Tyshawn Thornton, age 29, was arrested by the Apex Police Department on Wednesday after warrants say he held a victim down to a bed, trying to get her aroused to have sex with him by force and against her will. Malik Tyshawn. A spokesperson for the Wake County Sheriff's Office, Rosalia Federa, confirmed to CBS 17 that Thornton is a current employee and has been placed on administrative leave following the charges. Malik. Social media post from the Sheriff's Office on December 2023. Whoa, that's a way back. Identifies Thornton as a deputy. His employment with the Sheriff's Office, according to Federa, began in September 2023. Oh, he had a year with those guys. Look at him. Malik Tyshawn, you screwed up, you big idiot. Federa also confirmed that an internal investigation and review has been initiated in response to Thornton's charge as of 1:30 p.m. Wednesday. We take any violation of the law seriously, and we are closely monitoring developments. We respectfully, that's him, Malik Tyshawn, holding a woman down, trying to get her excited about him. Malik, you're an idiot. You made it on the Bad Apple Report. On with the show.
Shortly after, police raided this home where Courtney Price and her 17-month-old baby were staying, they realized they had the wrong home.
Whoa. It's a long house. They're up here.
But the door was knocked down by then, and the baby, who was inside using a respirator to help him breathe, inhaled smoke from the flashbang officers use. The baby spent 10 days in the ICU, according to a new federal lawsuit the family filed Thursday. This incident delayed what he and his mom moved here for, which was his heart surgery. The child's mom, Courtney Price, told 3 News back in January the incident left her stunned.
You hear in the video, you can hear me scream. I think I just said, I'm scared. I said, my baby's in here. He's on a ventilator.
And now, nearly 9 months to the date since this all happened, and almost 4 months since the Lorain County Sheriff's Office completed their investigation, concluding Elyria police followed procedures, the family is seeking justice. Attorneys representing the 2 sisters and the baby claim officers violated the family's civil rights. We counted 9 charges in the lawsuit. The family is suing the city and police officers for unreasonable search and seizure, unlawful use of excessive force, assault, battery, and more. They're asking for about $750,000 in damages plus court costs. The lawsuit also claims officers acted recklessly because prior to the raid, they were informed at least 3 times that the 12-year-old suspect they were looking for in connection with a stolen gun did not live there, and he had no relation to this family. The landlord backed these claims when she told an Elyria detective that the home was unoccupied for more than 2 weeks before the new tenants moved in.
Are you sure this property is empty? Why don't you go look around? My property is empty, and the last renter actually left more than 15 days ago.
J.D. Tomlinson and Jane Burge both appeared in court side by side. Neither of them had attorneys, but I will say a lot of Tomlinson's supporters are here. Now, these charges stem from allegations made by former employee Jennifer Ballesteros. The 2 were dating at one point. She claims he became obsessed with her and called her nearly 100 times a day. According to a 22-page report, she filed a complaint against Tomlinson and resigned. The woman says Tomlinson and Burge tried making false statements in an effort for her to drop her complaints. Now, right after court, Tomlinson did come out moments ago, and this is what he had to say.
We just want to say that we're very comfortable with the evidence that we have, and we look forward to our date in court. We are innocent. We are innocent. We can't talk too much about our case right now, but we will. The evidence will be shown.
It's a very inflammatory thing to be.
Sure.
I wanted to give you
I think all these allegations are inflammatory. I think they're meant to be that way.
And it's important to mention that Tomlinson is up for re-election this year, which is why the judge say this is a very deep emotional case for his supporters. Now, both Burge and Tomlinson cannot have any contact with that
Louisville Inspector General Ed Harness told me on the phone his office is investigating whether any policies were broken in connection to a 2019 internal LMPD investigation. The investigation centers around an incident in March of 2019 that alleged officers drank in the homicide office at a retirement party, with some having to be driven home, and 2 officers had sex during the party. Officers were ordered not to talk about the party, according to the complaints. The retirement party was for LMPD Major Todd Kessinger. An internal investigation by the department at the time found no evidence to support the allegations. WDRB sued LMPD in 2020 after the department failed to release all the names of the accused and the initial complaint. The court ordered the release of some documents which were partially redacted. The department initially withheld surveillance video requested by WDRB, which the Attorney General ruled was improperly held back. The anonymous complaint filed earlier this summer was presented to the Civilian Review and Accountability Board at their last meeting, and then assigned to the Inspector General for review. When Chief Paul Humphrey was named interim chief, Mayor Greenberg announced new pathways for LMPD employees to report suspected wrongdoings. One of those is to report to the Office of Inspector General. The Office of Inspector General could not place a timeline on when he expects to have this investigation finished.
Racketeering, extortion, civil rights violations, some of the damning claims made in a lawsuit filed by the ACLU against 9 Albuquerque police officers, 8 of whom have since left the force. The City of Albuquerque Chief Harold Medina, defense attorney Thomas Clear III, and his paralegal Rick Mendez.
This is essentially a mob-like practice that's being perpetrated by our officers.
Attorney Taylor Smith is working with the ACLU, he says, to seek justice for Carlos Smith.
He needs to definitely pay for what he did to me and for anybody else that he did this to.
A man whose DWI case KRQE investigates showed you earlier this year when Smith brought forward evidence revealing red flags with how former Albuquerque Police DWI officer Joshua Montano handled his arrest.
I do have to place you in handcuffs and I do have to place you under arrest. Seriously, sir? Car still be returned out. Thank you so much.
Originally stopped for speeding, Smith willingly took a breath test and blew below the legal limit, but he was still booked and charged with DWI. During booking, he says Montano took off his bracelet and later called him about it.
I don't know if you realize, but I'm sure you do that. Some of your jewelry was missing from your property from Sunday evening, and it looks like the PTC officers didn't put that in your property bag, but I have it.
That's when Smith says the officer connected him to defense attorney Thomas Clear III's office, and an uneasy feeling, he says, prompted him to record his interaction with Clear's paralegal, Rick Mendez.
So we charged $8,500 you could do in payments.
And with me, you representing me, that would guarantee that this doesn't go on my record?
Yes.
Okay.
They are taking people's belongings and forcing them to have interactions with private attorneys in order to facilitate obtaining money for the scheme.
In January, Smith's DWI case was dismissed. The same month, Attorney Clear's office was raided by federal agents and news of the alleged scheme broke open. In its lawsuit, the ACLU says officers within APD's DWI unit would refer DWI suspects to Clear and Mendez for legal services, claiming the officers would, quote, agree to not attend pretrial interviews or testify in criminal cases in exchange for consideration from Clear's defendants. It's a public corruption scheme also under investigation by the FBI. But so far, no one has faced any criminal charges. For its part, the ACLU says Smith's case deserves its day in court.
His life has been ruined. He's now been forced to rebuild his life since all this happened. And our opportunity to do this is through our civil process.
No one gives a rat's ass. Family reacts as homicide charges dropped against Louisiana trooper seen on video dragging black motorist, pressing his face into asphalt. Prosecutors last week dropped a negligent homicide charge against the Louisiana State Police trooper, one of the most serious counts remaining against several officers originally charged in the violent death of black motorist Ronald Green after a high-speed car chase and crash following an attempted traffic stop in Monroe, Louisiana 5 years ago, okay? After other officers tased Green, pulled him out of his vehicle, put him in a chokehold, pepper sprayed, and beat him, May 19th, Master Trooper Corey York was seen on body cam video dragging Green by the leg shackles and holding him prone on the roadside, stepping on his back as his bloodied face was pressed into the asphalt. After Green, a 49-year-old barber, went limp, the officers reportedly failed to render medical aid, and he died on the way to the hospital. Okay. And that's the story, folks. And there's your image. Louisiana State Police troopers hold down Ronald Green after a beating on May 10th. They do not like when you run from them, guys. Okay. In their initial reports, trooper blamed Green's death on the car crash, but emergency room staff and his extensive bodily and facial injuries and the minor damage to the SUV did not add up to that explanation. Law enforcement accounts were further called into question in 2021 when AP News obtained and published the graphic arrest video. Uh-oh, there it is, you guys. We're going to try to watch that. The officials had refused to release, which showed officers swarming Green as he appeared to raise his hands, plead for mercy, and wail, "I'm your brother, I'm scared," before he was brutalized. Damn it. His death sparked national outrage among several beatings of black men in Louisiana, by Louisiana state troopers, that is, that led to an ongoing civil rights investigation by the U.S. Department of Justice. An indictment by the state jury in December 2022 charged 5 officers with crimes, including negligent homicide, obstruction, and malfeasance. A 6th officer, considered the most culpable in the violent incident, died before he could face justice. Trooper Chris Hollingsworth allegedly struck Green multiple times in the head with the flashlight and can be heard on body cam video saying that he beat the ever-loving F out of Green. He told investigators 16 months after the incident that he did so because he was scared, according to audio of the police interview. He could have done anything once my hold was broke of him, and that's why I struck him, he told investigators. Oh, cops. Hollingsworth died in a high-speed, single-vehicle crash in 2020. Oh. Hours after he learned that he would be fired for his misconduct. Seems like suicide by cop. I mean, whatever. Only York and a Union Parish Sheriff's Deputy, Christopher Harpin, now remain charged in the case, both with multiple felony malfeasance counts, making it unlikely that any law enforcement officers will face any significant prison time. Oh, that other guy. Anyways, these guys. Okay, this whole thing started with a lie and a cover-up, and it's going to end the same way. A furious Mona Hardin, who's Green's mom, and she said that the latest dropped charge. Okay, she was not happy about that. You have so much evidence, yet no one wants to be the one pointing the finger against killer cops, she said through tears. They killed my son, and no one gives a rat's ass. I'm sorry, lady, but that's the way it is. Hardin, whose family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against state police in 2020, has spent the past 5 years. We give a rat's ass, by the way, here on the Bad Apple Report. Okay. She's been trying to advocate for justice for her son's death, all while vowing not to bury his ashes until she gets it. I would love it if these cops would get indicted. It has totally gutted my family, she told Atlanta Black Star in April of 2022 after she appeared at a hearing before a Louisiana legislative committee that was investigating Green's death and the alleged suppression of evidence in the case, including the leaked body cam video, which then Governor John Bell Edwards admitted he had seen 5 months after Green's death. Oh, Govey. That time, Hardin was hopeful that the heat on state police and other officials from the FBI probe into Green's death and civil rights investigation by the Justice Department looking into patterns and practices, blah, 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 and use of force and all that stuff. She was hoping that something would come of that. Since then, much of the case has unraveled, in part due to the difficulty of determining Green's exact cause of death. He looked pretty messed up in that picture, but we'll find out. Autopsy reports list contributing factors, including the trooper's repeated use of stun gun. Okay, that's not on Green. Physical struggle, prone restraint. That's not on Green. Blunt force injury and complications of cocaine use. Cocaine use, maybe. But the blunt force injury, how's that a complication of cocaine use? Okay, a forensic pathologist declined to identify which factor was the most lethal. In a statement, Union Parish District Attorney John Belton said that even though a grand jury indicted York For negligent homicide, the evidence does not meet the beyond a reasonable doubt standard necessary to secure conviction at trial. Oh, great. Belton also dropped a malfeasance count against York, charging him with pepper spraying Green after he was handcuffed, an allegation that York's attorney, Mike Small, called unfounded and unsupported by witnesses of the video. Okay, last October, Belton agreed to drop charges of obstruction of justice and malfeasance against them. This all sounds terrible, doesn't it? It does. They got off. And a district judge also tossed charges against former trooper Dakota DeMoss, Captain John Peters, the trooper leader. Oh, they got off. I hate that my son is one of the countless others, Hardin told the AP last week after York eluded the homicide charge. Oh, York. There's a lot that could be fixed in Louisiana that will never be fixed because of choices like this. Well, that one guy, old Speedy Gonzalez, or whatever his name was. Okay, anyways. We don't really... I think that's it for the show there. Yep, that's it, you guys. All right, so one cop offed himself, apparently, or maybe he just had a car accident. The other two cops, they wound up getting off, and they're on the Bad Apple Report. No photos, but we can just imagine what they look like. And we'll move on with the show.